If you're going to pretend to work here, at least try not to ruin my event. The words leave Chloe Bennett's mouth sharper than she intends, but she doesn't take them back. Not when the clock above the ballroom doors reads 4:07 p.m., not when the Caldwell Grand Hotel is already filling with early guests, and definitely not when everything, her rent, her future, her last chance, is riding on tonight, going perfectly. The air inside the ballroom hums with quiet tension, silverware clinking softly against fine china, staff moving like a choreographed dance under warm golden lights that make everything look more expensive than it probably is. Everything except Chloe. She catches her reflection for half a second in the mirrored column near the entrance. Black flats slightly scuffed, a tailored black dress borrowed from a friend, a clipboard clutched too tightly in her hands, and forces herself to look away. She doesn't belong here. But she doesn't have time to think about that. You. Yes, you. She calls again, stepping closer to the man adjusting a centerpiece arrangement on table 12. He straightens slowly, turning toward her. He's tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a simple white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up just enough to suggest effort without formality. No name tag, no jacket, definitely staff, she decides, already moving past the thought. The floral spacing is off by at least 2 inches. And the candles? They need to be aligned with the center seam. It's not complicated. The man studies her for a brief second, something unreadable flickering in his eyes, like he's deciding whether to speak. Then, instead of correcting her, instead of questioning her tone, he simply nods once. Got it, he says calmly. Chloe exhales, relieved she doesn't have to argue. She doesn't notice the way a nearby staff member freezes for a split second before quickly looking away. She doesn't notice the subtle shift in the room, the quiet ripple of confusion that follows him. All she sees is another task halfway fixed. She flips a page on her clipboard, her checklist marked in neat, urgent handwriting, table placements, lighting cues, guest arrival timing, every detail mapped out. Because if she doesn't control this, it will fall apart. And if it falls apart, so does she. Also, she adds quickly, already walking toward the next setup, the VIP section needs to be reset. Whoever handled it clearly didn't read the layout. Behind her, the man glances at the VIP section, then back at her retreating figure. A faint smile touches the corner of his mouth. Not amused, not offended, just curious. He moves without hesitation, adjusting, fixing, aligning, correcting things Chloe hasn't even noticed yet. Quietly, efficiently, like he's done this before. Like he understands the room better than anyone here. Chloe doesn't see any of that. She's too busy racing the ticking clock, too busy trying to prove she deserves to be here, too busy mistaking control for belonging. And as she moves through the ballroom, issuing directions, correcting mistakes, building order out of chaos, she has no idea that the man she just scolded, the one now flawlessly executing every command she gives, is not a waiter. Not even close. She just gave orders to the man who owns the entire hotel. You are 2 minutes behind schedule, Chloe says without looking up, her pen moving quickly across the checklist, as if writing faster could somehow slow time down. The ballroom feels tighter now, fuller, voices rising, heels clicking against polished floors, the scent of expensive perfume mixing with fresh flowers and polished wood. Every second matters. Every detail matters. And she refuses to let anything slip. Table 18 still needs water refilled, and the lighting on the west side is too dim. She continues, glancing briefly toward the man beside her, already assuming he will follow through like before. He does. Without question. Without hesitation. Ethan moves through the room with quiet precision, adjusting lighting levels, signaling discreetly to other staff, correcting placements before Chloe even finishes describing them. It is subtle, almost invisible, but the entire room begins to shift toward perfection under his touch. Chloe notices the results, but not the source. Not yet. You are new, right? She asks suddenly, lowering her clipboard just enough to study him. There is something about him that does not quite fit. His posture is too confident. His movements too controlled. Not rushed like the others. Not nervous. Just steady. Something like that, he replies, his voice calm. Almost amused, though he keeps his expression neutral. Chloe narrows her eyes slightly, then shakes it off. She does not have time for curiosity. Well, you are doing better than most of them, she admits, already turning away. Just keep following my lead, and we might actually pull this off. Ethan watches her for a moment as she moves toward the entrance, greeting a vendor with forced professionalism, her smile polite but tight around the edges. He sees the way she presses her lips together after every interaction, the way her fingers tighten around the pen when something feels off. Control. That is what she is holding on to. Control, because everything else feels like it could collapse at any second. Miss Bennett. A voice interrupts, sharp and impatient. Chloe turns quickly to see a senior coordinator approaching, his expression tense. The guest list has been updated. There are 30 additional VIP arrivals, and they need to be accommodated immediately. Chloe's stomach drops, but her face does not show it. 30, she repeats, already flipping through her notes. There is no space allocated for that. Well, now there has to be, he says, already walking away. For a split second, everything around her blurs. 30 extra guests means rearranging seating, adjusting catering, rebalancing the entire room. It means chaos. Her grip tightens on the clipboard, the edges digging into her palm. Not today. She cannot let it fall apart today. Okay, she whispers to herself, barely audible. Think. Ethan steps closer, just within her space, but not invading it. You can shift the center tables by 12 inches and create a secondary VIP row along the east side. He says quietly, his tone steady, like he is offering something obvious. Chloe looks at him, surprised. That would block the main walkway, she counters immediately. Not if you reroute the service path through the rear corridor and stagger the entry timing by 5 minutes, he replies without missing a beat. She stares at him now, really looks this time. That was not a guess. That was experience. You have done this before, she says slowly. A few times, he answers, the faintest hint of a smile returning. Chloe hesitates, just for a second, then nods. Fine. We do it your way. But if this fails, it is on you. I understand, he says simply. And somehow that is enough. She turns sharply, already calling out instructions, her voice stronger now, more certain. We are shifting layout. 12 inches inward now. Move with me. Around them, the staff begins to move faster, more focused, following her direction. And beside her, the man she still believes is just another employee quietly ensures that every single change works exactly as planned. Do not stop moving, Chloe says under her breath as the room transforms around her, her voice steady even though her pulse is anything but. The shift happens fast now, tables sliding exactly 12 inches inward, chairs lifted and repositioned with careful precision, staff rerouting trays through the rear corridor, just like he suggested. It should feel chaotic. It should feel impossible. But somehow it works. Chloe moves through the center aisle, scanning every angle, every line of sight, every potential flaw. Her checklist is no longer just paper in her hand. It is a map she is rewriting in real time. Lighting, increased by 10% on the east side, she calls out. Keep the pathway clear, no exceptions. Her voice carries authority now, not forced, not borrowed, but earned in the middle of pressure. And behind her, always just a step away but never in the spotlight, Ethan adjusts, signals, corrects. A flick of his hand, and a server changes direction. A quiet word, and a manager nods without question. It is subtle, almost invisible, but the room is bending to his rhythm. Chloe notices something this time. Not fully, not enough to understand, but enough to pause. A senior staff member passes by Ethan and straightens instinctively, offering a respectful nod before continuing. That is not how they treat someone new. Her eyes narrow slightly, but the moment slips away as another problem rises. The guest entrance is backing up. Someone calls from across the room. Chloe turns immediately, her mind already calculating timing. We stagger entry by 5 minutes, she says quickly, repeating his earlier suggestion without even realizing it. Open the side doors, split the flow. She looks at Ethan again, this time not with instruction, but with something closer to recognition. That was your idea, she says, almost testing him. It is working, he replies simply. There is no pride in his voice, no need to claim credit. And somehow, that unsettles her more than arrogance would have. You talk like you have run events bigger than this, she says, stepping closer, lowering her voice just enough to make it personal. What did you do before this? He meets her gaze, calm, unreadable, like he is choosing every word carefully. I have been around, he says. Chloe lets out a small breath, almost a laugh, though it is more disbelief than humor. That is not an answer. It is the one I have right now, he replies. For a second, she considers pushing further, but the moment is interrupted by the soft swell of music beginning to rise through the ballroom speakers. The signal. Guests are arriving. The event is starting. Chloe straightens, shoulders back, posture shifting into something composed, something professional. This is the moment everything has been building toward. Positions, everyone, she calls, her voice cutting clean through the noise. We are live. The doors open wider now, a steady stream of well-dressed guests entering, conversations flowing, laughter filling the air. The room glows under the lights, polished, perfect, exactly as it should be. Chloe stands near the entrance, greeting, directing, adjusting small details as they appear, her movements precise, controlled. For the first time all day, nothing is falling apart. And yet, something feels off. Not wrong, just incomplete. She glances back over her shoulder, searching for him without meaning to. Ethan stands near the center of the room now, watching everything unfold with quiet focus. Not like someone working, not like someone following orders, like someone evaluating. Their eyes meet for a brief second. There is something in his expression she cannot quite read. Not amusement, not approval, something deeper. Then, before she can make sense of it, the lights dim slightly and a voice echoes through the ballroom. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Chloe turns toward the stage, her breath catching just a little, unaware that the next few minutes are about to change everything she thought she understood about the man she has been ordering around all evening. Please join me in welcoming the man behind tonight's event, the visionary who made all of this possible. The voice echoes smoothly across the ballroom, polished and confident, the kind of voice that belongs to someone who has done this 100 times before. Chloe stands near the entrance, her hands finally still at her sides, her breathing just beginning to slow after the chaos of the last hour. The room looks perfect. No, more than perfect. It looks intentional, effortless, like it was always meant to be this way. And for a brief, fragile moment, she allows herself to feel it. Relief, pride, maybe even belonging. The owner of Caldwell Grand Hotel. The words land gently at first, just part of the script, just another introduction. Chloe glances toward the stage, her attention casual, her mind already shifting to the next checklist item, the next possible issue. Mr. Ethan Caldwell. Everything stops. Not the music, not the murmurs of the crowd, not the soft applause that begins to ripple through the room. But Chloe stops. Completely. Her breath catches somewhere between her chest and her throat, refusing to move. No, that name does not belong here. That name does not belong to. She turns. Slowly. Like if she moves too fast, it will all fall apart. Across the ballroom, the man she has been directing, correcting, ordering around all evening steps forward into the light. Not rushed, not surprised, just steady, confident, known. The same white shirt, the same calm expression. But everything about him is different now. The room changes around him. Staff members straighten. Conversations quiet. People turn, not casually, but with recognition. Respect. Power. He steps onto the stage, the light catching him. Just right, and the applause grows louder, fuller, undeniable. Chloe's fingers tighten around her clipboard, the paper bending under the pressure. That is not possible, she whispers to herself, but her voice has no strength behind it. Her mind replays every moment in sharp, unforgiving detail. The commands, the corrections, the tone. The candles are off. You missed a spot. Do it again. Heat rises in her chest, not from anger, but from something far worse. Realization. He did not say anything. Not once. He let her speak to him like that. He let her believe it. On stage, Ethan begins to speak, his voice calm and controlled, thanking the guests, acknowledging the team, saying all the right things. But Chloe does not hear the words. She only hears the silence he gave her, the choice he made to say nothing. Her eyes meet his for just a second, and this time, she understands the look she saw before. Not amusement, not judgment, something deeper, something that feels almost like disappointment. She looks away immediately, her chest tightening. Miss Bennett, the same senior coordinator from earlier, appears beside her, his tone suddenly different. Respectful, Careful. Mr. Caldwell would like you near the stage. Chloe blinks, the words barely registering. Me? She asks, her voice quieter now, stripped of the sharp edges it carried before. Yes, he says. Immediately. The room feels too big now. Too bright. Too exposed. Every step she takes toward the stage feels heavier than the last, like the polished floor beneath her is no longer steady. Conversations blur into background noise. Faces turn, eyes follow. She does not belong here. Not like this. Not anymore. She reaches the edge of the stage, stopping just short, her hands no longer steady. Above her, Ethan finishes his sentence, then pauses. The room quiets again, waiting. He looks down. At her. And for the first time all night, Chloe Bennet does not know what he is going to say next. The silence stretches for just a fraction too long, the kind of silence that feels deliberate, like it is meant to be noticed. Ethan's gaze stays on Chloe, steady, unreadable, while the entire ballroom seems to hold its breath with him. Then he speaks. Tonight, he begins, his voice smooth and calm, carrying effortlessly across the room, was supposed to be flawless. A soft ripple of agreement moves through the guests, polite smiles, quiet nods. Chloe's stomach tightens. Flawless. She hears every place it almost was not. Every adjustment. Every mistake. Every order she gave. And for a moment, he continues, it almost was not. The words land heavier now. Subtle. Precise. Chloe feels them like a spotlight tightening around her chest. Her fingers curl slightly at her sides, the memory of her own voice echoing back at her. The corrections. The tone. The certainty. She does not look up. Not yet. But, Ethan says, and there is a shift in his voice, something warmer, something that pulls attention instead of pressing it down. Someone in this room refused to let that happen. Chloe blinks, her breath catching. That is not where she expected this to go. Around her, heads begin to turn, curiosity replacing polite attention. The room leans forward. Ethan steps slightly closer to the edge of the stage, his gaze never leaving her. Someone who saw problems before they became failures. Someone who kept moving when everything could have fallen apart. Chloe's heart starts to beat faster now, not from pressure, but from something uncertain, something unfamiliar. She lifts her eyes slowly, and he is still looking at her. Not past her, not through her, at her. Miss Chloe Bennet, he says clearly. The sound of her name fills the room, no longer small, no longer hidden behind a clipboard and borrowed confidence. It lands in the air, real and undeniable. A quiet murmur spreads through the guests. Chloe freezes, every instinct telling her to step back, to disappear, to undo the last few hours if she could. But she cannot move. She ran this event. Ethan continues, his voice steady, unshaken. Not perfectly, not easily, but with something far more valuable than that. Chloe feels the weight of every eye now, the kind of attention she has spent her entire life avoiding. Her chest tightens, but not in the same way as before. This is different. This is exposure without protection. She cared. He says simply. The room quiets again, not out of expectation, but out of something closer to respect. She challenged what did not work. She pushed when it would have been easier to step back. And she did not know who she was talking to. A soft ripple of laughter moves through the crowd, light, controlled, but Chloe does not hear it as humor. She hears the truth in it, the reality of what she did. She swallows, her voice barely a whisper as she looks up at him. You let me, she says, the words fragile, almost lost in the space between them. Ethan's expression shifts, just slightly. Not defensive, not dismissive, honest. I wanted to see who you were without knowing who I am. He replies, his voice quieter now, meant more for her than for the room. Chloe shakes her head once, a small, disbelieving movement. And what did you see? She asks, her voice unsteady but real. He does not hesitate. Someone who belongs here, he says. The words hit harder than anything else tonight. Not because they are loud, but because they are certain. Chloe's breath catches again, but this time she does not look away. The room fades just a little around them. The noise, the lights, the weight of everything softening at the edges. For the first time since she walked into this hotel, she is not trying to prove anything. She is just standing there, seen in a way she never expected. And somehow, that feels more overwhelming than any mistake she made. The applause comes first, soft at the edges, then building, growing louder as the weight of Ethan's words settles into the room, but Chloe barely hears it. Her world has narrowed to the space between her and him, to the echo of a single sentence that refuses to fade. Someone who belongs here. The phrase lingers, almost unreal, like it was meant for someone else. Not her. Not the girl who double-checks prices before buying groceries, who measures time in overdue notices and late fees, who learned early that belonging was something you earned quietly, not something handed to you under chandeliers and applause. I do not, she says suddenly, the words slipping out before she can stop them. Her voice is low, but in the quiet that follows his speech, it carries just enough. Ethan hears it. Of course he does. His expression does not change, but there is a flicker of understanding in his eyes, something that suggests he expected this. Chloe takes a small step back, shaking her head, her composure starting to crack under the weight of everything pressing in on her. You do not get to decide that, she continues, her voice steadier now, but edged with something raw, something honest. You do not know me. A few guests shift uncomfortably, the tension shifting from admiration to curiosity, but Ethan does not look away. Then tell me, he says quietly. Not challenging, not defensive, just open. The simplicity of it catches her off guard. Chloe hesitates, her thoughts scrambling, her instincts telling her to retreat, to shut down, to step out of this spotlight before it burns too bright. But something about the way he is looking at her, not like she is a problem to fix, not like she is out of place, but like she is worth understanding, keeps her there. I am here because I need the money, she says finally, the truth plain and unfiltered. Because if tonight failed, I lose more than just a job. I lose my apartment. I lose everything I have been holding together. The room is quieter now, not with anticipation, but with attention. Real attention. I am not someone who belongs in rooms like this, she adds, her voice softer, but no less certain. I just try not to get thrown out of them. For a moment, no one speaks. Not the guests, not the staff, not even the music seems to breathe. Ethan steps down from the stage slowly, closing the distance between them, not rushing, not making it dramatic, just choosing to stand on the same level. You think belonging is about where you start, he says, his voice low enough now that it feels personal again, even in a room full of people. It is not. Chloe looks at him, searching for something she can push against, something she can dismiss, but his tone does not give her anything to fight. It is about what you build when everything is at risk, he continues. And you built something tonight. Not because you had to, but because you refused to let it fail. She exhales slowly, the tension in her shoulders loosening just a fraction, though her guard is still there, still strong. I also told you to fix candles like you worked for me, she says, a faint, almost embarrassed edge slipping into her voice. Ethan's lips curve slightly, not mocking, not amused in a way that diminishes her, but in a way that softens the moment. You did, he says. And I did. Chloe lets out a small breath, something close to a laugh, though it is quieter, more uncertain than before. The weight of the room begins to shift again, not heavy, not judging, but watching something unfold that feels less like a performance and more like something real. She looks down briefly, then back up at him. You should have said something, she admits. I would have. Ethan tilts his head slightly, considering that. Would you have treated me differently, he asks. The question lands gently, but it carries more than it seems. Chloe pauses, just for a second, and in that second, she knows the answer. Her silence says it for her. Ethan nods once, not as a victory, but as an understanding. And for the first time all night, Chloe Bennett is not standing in a room trying to prove she belongs. She is standing in a moment where the truth is finally clear, even if she is not ready to accept it yet. The music slowly rises again, soft and elegant, as if the room itself is trying to recover from the unexpected shift in energy, but Chloe still stands in that same spot, her thoughts louder than anything else around her. The conversation, the question, the silence that followed it, it all lingers in her chest, heavier than she expected. Would you have treated me differently? She knows the answer, and she hates it, not because it makes her look bad, but because it exposes something she has spent years trying to outrun. The fear of being small in a room built for people with power. The instinct to adjust, to soften, to not say too much when she knows someone has more than she does. Her fingers tighten slightly at her sides before she exhales and straightens her posture again, pulling herself back into motion. The event is still running, she says quietly, almost to herself, but loud enough for him to hear. I cannot stand here all night. It is not avoidance. Not entirely. It is survival. Ethan watches her for a moment, then gives a small nod. Of course, he says, stepping back just enough to give her space, but not distance. Chloe turns, moving quickly back into the flow of the room, her clipboard back in her hands, her voice returning to its familiar rhythm. Table 6 needs clearing, and someone fixed the lighting near the entrance. It is drifting again. The staff responds immediately, but something is different now. The way they look at her, the way they listen. There is a new layer beneath it. Not just compliance. Recognition. Chloe feels it, even if she does not want to. Every step she takes feels more visible now, more exposed, like the spotlight from the stage never fully left her. She stops near the dessert station, scanning the arrangement, adjusting a tray slightly to the left. It is perfect. It should feel like a win. It does not. You reorganize the entire east section in under 10 minutes, a voice says beside her. She turns to see the senior coordinator again, but his tone has changed completely. No impatience, no tension, just respect. That is not something most people can do. Chloe shrugs slightly, deflecting without thinking. It needed to be done. Most people would have panicked, he adds. She almost smiles, but it fades before it fully forms. I did panic, she says honestly. I just did not stop moving. He nods once, like that answer makes more sense than anything else she could have said, then steps away, leaving her alone again with her thoughts. Or at least, she thinks she is alone. That is the difference. Ethan's voice comes from just behind her, calm as ever. Chloe does not turn immediately this time. She already knows he is there. Between people who manage situations and people who lead them. She exhales slowly, her shoulders lowering just a fraction. You are still watching everything, she says, glancing at him briefly. Even now. It is my hotel, he replies simply. It is my job. Chloe lets out a quiet breath, something between acceptance and disbelief. Right, she says. Your hotel. The words feel different now. He is not just someone who owns the space. He defines it. And somehow, he just stood in the middle of it and handed her a piece of that authority in front of everyone. She looks back at the room, the guests laughing, the staff moving with purpose, the event unfolding exactly as planned. You did not have to do that, she says after a moment. Say all of that. In front of everyone. Ethan studies her, his expression steady. Yes, I did, he says. Chloe frowns slightly, confused. Why? He pauses, just long enough to make the answer feel intentional. Because people in this room respect what they can see, he says. And I wanted them to see you. Chloe looks at him again, really looks this time, searching for something that explains why this matters to him, why she matters in this moment. But what she finds is not something she expected. Not curiosity, not evaluation. Something quieter, something real. And for the first time since everything shifted, Chloe Bennett does not feel like she is trying to stay in the room. She feels like the room is slowly, quietly making space for her. The night moves forward, smooth and seamless, as if the tension that once filled the room has been carefully folded away, leaving behind something quieter, something steadier, but Chloe can still feel it beneath the surface, like a current she cannot ignore. She stands near the edge of the ballroom now, her clipboard resting lightly against her side, no longer clutched like a lifeline, her eyes scanning the room out of habit more than necessity. Everything is running exactly as it should. Guests are laughing, glasses are raised, conversations flow easily under the warm glow of chandeliers. It is perfect. And yet, for the first time tonight, she is not focused on fixing anything. She is thinking. You are still checking for problems, Ethan says from beside her, his voice low, almost blending into the soft music. Chloe glances at him, then back at the room. That is what I do, she replies. If I stop, something usually goes wrong. Nothing is going wrong, he says. She hesitates, just for a second, then nods slowly. I know, she admits. And that is what feels strange. The absence of urgency. The absence of something breaking. She shifts her weight slightly, her fingers brushing against the edge of her clipboard before she finally lowers it completely, letting it rest on the nearby table. It is a small movement, almost insignificant, but it feels like letting go of something she has been holding on to all night. Ethan notices. Of course he does. You do not have to hold everything together by yourself, he says quietly. Chloe lets out a soft breath, not quite a laugh, not quite a sigh. That is kind of how my life works, she says. If I do not, no one else will. Ethan studies her for a moment, his expression thoughtful. That might have been true before, he says. It does not have to be true now. She looks at him again, searching his face, trying to understand what he means, trying to decide if she even wants to understand it. You are saying that like something changed, she says carefully. Something did, he replies. You did. Chloe shakes her head slightly, instinctively pushing back. I am still the same person I was when I walked in here. No, he says gently. You are the same person. But now people see it. The words settle differently this time. Not overwhelming. Not too much. Just present. Chloe turns her gaze back to the room, watching as a group of guests pass by, one of them glancing at her with a small, respectful nod. It is subtle, easy to miss. But she notices. She notices all of it now. This is temporary, she says after a moment, her voice quieter, more grounded. Tonight ends, and I go back to everything else. The unfinished sentence hangs between them, filled with everything she does not say. The small apartment, the overdue bills, the uncertainty. Ethan does not interrupt. He lets her finish in her own way. Then let it end differently, he says. Chloe turns to him, her brow furrowing slightly. What does that mean? Ethan reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out something simple. Familiar. He holds it out to her. Her checklist. The same one she has been using all night, now slightly creased, marked with notes, adjustments, decisions she made under pressure. She takes it slowly, her fingers brushing against his for just a second, the contact brief but grounding. You built this, he says, nodding toward the ballroom. Not just the event. The way it works. The way people moved. The way problems were solved. Chloe looks down at the paper in her hands, her own handwriting staring back at her like proof she cannot ignore. That is not something temporary, he continues. That is a skill. That is leadership. She exhales slowly, the weight of his words settling in a place that does not feel heavy anymore. It feels possible. So what are you saying? She asks, her voice softer now, but steady. Ethan meets her gaze, no hesitation this time. I am saying this does not have to be the only night you belong here. The room continues around them, unchanged, unaware of the shift happening in this quiet corner of it. But for Chloe Bennett, something is different now. Not because everything in her life has changed, but because for the first time, she is starting to believe that it could. The night begins to soften as the final hour approaches, the sharp edges of urgency fading into something calmer, something almost reflective, and Chloe stands there with the checklist still in her hands, her fingers tracing over the ink she wrote in moments of pressure, decisions made without permission, without certainty, but with instinct. Around her, the ballroom glows in quiet success, guests lingering longer than expected, laughter warmer now, conversations deeper, as if the room itself is reluctant to let go of what it became tonight. Chloe exhales slowly, looking up from the paper, her gaze drifting across the space one more time, not searching for problems, but taking it in. For the first time, she is not measuring what could go wrong. She is seeing what went right. You are doing it again, Ethan says gently from beside her. She glances at him, a small, almost shy smile forming before she can stop it. What, she asks. Trying to memorize the moment so you can convince yourself it was just luck, he replies. Chloe lets out a quiet breath, her smile fading into something more honest. Maybe it was, she says. Maybe I just got lucky tonight. Ethan shakes his head slightly. Luck does not redesign a room under pressure, he says. Luck does not lead people who were not listening before. Chloe looks down again, the checklist feeling different now, no longer a shield, but something closer to proof. Then what happens tomorrow? She asks, her voice quieter, not uncertain, but real. Tomorrow, I wake up, and none of this is mine. Ethan studies her for a moment, then gestures subtly toward the room. You think this belongs to me because I own it, he says. But that is not why it works. Chloe frowns slightly, considering that. Then why does it work, she asks. Because of people who know how to make it work, he replies. People like you. The words do not overwhelm her this time. They settle. Chloe nods slowly, as if she is finally allowing herself to accept even a small part of what he is saying. Around them, the staff begins the quiet transition into closing, clearing tables, lowering lights, guiding guests toward the exit with practiced ease. The night is ending, but it does not feel like something is being taken away. It feels like something is being carried forward. Chloe places the checklist down on the table beside her, not carefully, not protectively, just letting it rest. I do not want tonight to be the only time I feel like this, she admits, her voice steady, her eyes meeting his without hesitation. Ethan does not look surprised. Then do not let it be, he says simply. Chloe lets out a small breath, something lighter now, something closer to relief. You make it sound easy, she says. It is not easy, he replies. But it is possible. The word lingers between them, not as a promise, but as an opening. Chloe nods once, a quiet decision forming. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Then I guess I will have to prove you right, she says. There is a spark of something in her voice now, something that was not there when she first walked into the hotel, something stronger than pressure, stronger than fear. Ethan smiles slightly, not wide, not showy, but genuine. You already started, he says. For a moment, they just stand there, the noise of the room fading into the background, the distance between them no longer defined by status or misunderstanding,